Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Monday, June 20th, 2022, and welcome back in to the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we'll recap another pretty fun series and pretty successful series of Orioles baseball at Camden Yards over the weekend. The O's take 2 out of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays in 3 one-run games and get to 30 wins on the season almost a month earlier than they did so last year. And I'll get you my 3 big takeaways from the weekend series, starting with a couple of unproven starters stepping up for the Orioles, then their closer Jorge Lopez and why he's more than just a good closer in a Baltimore Orioles sense. And then we'll talk about why the O's have played so many more one-run games this year and why they're built better for those one-run games this season. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So we're recapping an Orioles series victory as they take 2 out of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays over the weekend at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. And it was a fun weekend of baseball, 3 one-run games as the Orioles win it 1-0 on Friday night. They did lose 7-6 on Saturday, but come back and win the Father's Day game by a score of 2-1 on Sunday to finish with their second consecutive series win over the Rays, now 4-5 against Tampa this year after they were 1-18 against the Rays last season, and the O's are now 30-38 on the year. They get their 30th win of the season on June 19th. They did not get win number 30 last year until July 18th. So just about a month earlier, they pick up their 30th victory. Of course, this team playing a whole lot better baseball this year than they were last season. And I'm going to get you my 3 big takeaways from the weekend of Orioles baseball coming up on today's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. So let's get right to it. Orioles and Rays, a 3-game series of the O's take 2 out of 3, winning the series on Sunday in the rubber match. And my first big takeaway from the weekend is that in the 2 Orioles wins on Friday and Sunday this weekend, they had some somewhat unproven starting pitchers really step up and do their job to help the Orioles to victory. Because listen, the O's did give up 7 runs on Saturday, and 6 of them came off of Kyle Bradish, who started the game and has been having some struggles lately. I do think the O's keep Bradish in the rotation moving forward because they kind of have to at this point. But, the other 2 starters really pitched well for the Orioles. The O's gave up a combined 1 run in the 2 wins this weekend on Friday and Sunday. And that had a lot to do with what Dean Kremer did on Friday and what Austin Voth did on Sunday. Let's start with Kremer, who had another really solid start for the O's. In the Friday night game, he really set the tone for this weekend for Baltimore. Goes out there and tosses 6 scoreless innings for the Orioles. Allowed just 5 hits, struck out 5, walked just 1 batter in those 6 innings. Only took him 82 pitches as well. Was really efficient getting through 6. Now, look, the Rays had some solid contact on the day. They did have 9 hard hit balls against Kremer in those 6 innings, and he gave up the 5 hits and the walk. So that's 6 base runners in 6 innings, but he was able to work out of any damage, any trouble that he got himself into. And I was really impressed by Kremer in this one. And it kind of, it's interesting to look at it as compared to his last start when he started last Sunday in Kansas City against the Royals. Now, the Orioles won that game, and Kremer, got into the 6th inning in that one as well, but he was kind of erratic in that game in Kansas City, as I talked about. He would throw 2 pitches almost to the backstop, and then he'd dot the corner with a cutter for a strike. This time, he had much better command and control of all his pitches on Friday night, and it showed with what he could do. Got 12 whiffs on 45 swings, and 7 of those 12 whiffs came from that 4-seam fastball. He threw it 40 out of his 82 pitches, so just less than half were the 4-seamer. And, the velo was right around where it's been all year, 93 to 95 for Kremer. But he was getting swings and misses on that pitch. And really for Dean Kremer, that is a huge thing for him to get swings and misses on that four-seam fastball, because he's used his curveball so much less lately, only threw 5 curveballs out of 82 pitches on Friday. That used to be his whiff pitch. Now he's going to his changeup more. Changeup was actually his second most used pitch on the day. That's the first time this season. It's usually the cutter is that number 2 pitch. Got 3 whiffs on the change as well. I just really liked what I saw. He gave the Orioles length. He probably could have pitched into the 7th inning if the Orioles wanted to, if it wasn't a 1-0 game. Well, really, when he left, it was a 0-0 game. The O's didn't score until the 7th with the RBI single from Adley Rutschman, which was their only run on Friday. So if it's not a 0-0 game, if the O's are up 5 or 6-0, Kremer might come back out for the 7th at just 82 pitches. But I really like where he's at. And after such a disastrous 2021, he came up in the shortened season in 2020, showed all those positives. It all fell apart last year. So good to see him getting back on track with not just the bad last year, but the terrible timing on the injury this year that kept him out for the first 2 months. And now we're seeing why Dean Kremer did make the opening day roster this year before he had that oblique injury. But then I want to go over to Sunday starter, who obviously did not impact the game as much as Dean Kremer did, but Austin Voth still did his job on Sunday. And Voth was not supposed to be the Orioles starter on Sunday. Of course, the O's claimed Voth off waivers from the Nationals a couple weeks ago, put him in the bullpen to kind of be a long guy, a mop-up guy, a veteran guy who's, pitched to the bigs for a little bit, who they thought maybe could be a reclamation project as well, which I talked about on an earlier episode. But Jordan Lyles gets scratched from his Sunday start. Luckily, it turned out, obviously not a great day for Lyles on Father's Day to have a stomach virus that keeps him out from starting this game. But it was obviously good to hear it's just a stomach virus and not some sort of injury that's going to keep him out for an extended time. Heck, once he recovers, 24, 48 hours, he will most likely start either the Tuesday or Wednesday game at Camden Yards against the Nationals. So it'll just cause his start to be pushed back a couple of days. But Austin Voth gets thrown into the fire. I mean, really your 2 options were either Voth or Mike Baumann to start, because Keegan Aiken threw 2 innings on Saturday. Those are your 2 spot starting options. And because Baumann's been used as a reliever only since the Orioles have called him up this year, really the only option for Brandon Hyde was to go to Austin Voth, who started a lot when he was with the Washington Nationals. And we don't know what we're going to get because, he hasn't looked stellar at all since the Orioles claimed him, and he was terrible with the Nationals this year before they DFA'd him. But Austin Voth got the ball and had his best appearance on the mound of the season, whether it's with the Nationals or with the Orioles. And it was huge on Sunday. And listen, he only recorded 8 outs. The Orioles still needed to use 7 pitchers to get that win. But they were 8 huge outs. Voth goes 2 2/3 innings scoreless, allowing just 3 hits. He strikes out 4 and walked just 1 on the day. And I get it. It's a Rays offense that has been struggling. They're very injured. They're not exactly the Rays team that we saw early this season in terms of the offense. But it took him only 41 pitches to get those 8 outs. And, there were 3 hard hit balls against him, but the stuff was crisp. And here was a really interesting stat from the day that I tweeted out over at Locked On Orioles. Austin Voth had 7 whiffs on the day on 41 pitches, 7 whiffs on 17 swings. Pretty good number. Had 2 on his four-seamer, 2 on his curveball, 3 on his cutter. 7 whiffs in 2 2/3. You'll take that number. Pretty solid number. Corey Kluber, who threw 6 strong innings for the Rays, gave up 2 runs over 6. Corey Kluber had 7 whiffs in his entire start in 6 innings. So Voth got the same amount of whiffs in less than half of the time on the mound. That's what was impressive from Austin Voth. And here's the other thing that was really intriguing. When Voth came over, we talked about on a previous episode about what the Orioles could do to try and fix him, because he still has some interesting underlying stats. There's a reason why the Orioles claimed a guy who had an ERA of 10 with the Nationals. And what we looked at was, while his fastball can play up, he needs to throw his curveball more, and maybe even throw it more than he throws his fastball, because it's such a good curveball, good spin rate, good break, some of the best in baseball. And what does he do? Well, he throws 41 pitches on Sunday, 15 four-seamers, that was his most used pitch, but then 13 curveballs and 13 cutters. He basically used his 3 pitches pretty evenly on the day, and it worked out. The 3 whiffs on the cutter, that pitch was deadly. The curveball got some swings and misses in the dirt. He got some strikeouts with that thing. The fastball was 93 to 95, and it played up with that spin rate. That was the best we've seen Austin Voth in either uniform this season. And what a job it was. And listen, we knew before the game, Brandon Hyde said it, don't expect anything more than maybe 3 innings from Austin Voth. He gives them 2 2/3 scoreless. You'll take that every day in a spot start. And now he'll go back to the bullpen now, but because the Orioles have, some concerns with Bruce Zimmerman going down and Brad is struggling and Lyles with the stomach virus, if they need a starter in another pinch, this has given them confidence that they can go to Austin Voth. And it's not just the fact that he helped the Orioles win on Sunday, but the fact that they can now have more confidence in him as well makes it even more interesting. And, the O's need to get rid of a pitcher on the roster on Monday. We've talked about many times this year, MLB enforcing a rule where you can only have up to 13 pitchers on your 26-man roster. Now, they lengthened the rule where you could have 14. They kept pushing it back and pushing it back. Well, today is the deadline officially where it has to be, most teams will carry 13 pitchers and 13 hitters. Well, the Orioles currently have 14 pitchers and 12 hitters. And so they're going to need to get rid of someone off the roster. And I really thought before the day on Sunday, I thought it was probably down to Austin Voth and Mike Baumann. Now, Baumann has options. Voth does not. So that probably makes it easier for the Orioles to option a guy like Baumann. But if Voth had pitched terribly, there's a good chance he could have been DFA'd to open that spot. Now that he pitched like this, he probably saved himself a roster spot moving forward with the Orioles. And we'll see how his role maybe continues to change a little bit after 8 strong outs, helping the O's to a win on Sunday. But Voth and Kremer, they were not the only 2 pitchers who helped the Orioles this weekend. In fact, you could make an argument that the most important pitcher this weekend for Baltimore was their closer in Jorge Lopez, who had 2 really impressive 4-out saves over the weekend. And coming up next, we'll talk about Lopez's impressive weekend, but not only that, his impressive season and why Jorge Lopez should be in LA for the All-Star game come July. But first, let's talk about a product that we talk about here on the show that I use literally every day. From Athletic Greens, it is AG1. And I started taking AG1 because I wanted better gut health, more energy for the podcast, and wanted an optimized immune system as well. And you might be wondering, you hear me talk about what is this stuff? What is AG1? Well, with one delicious scoop, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right. It's really got everything in this supplement, and it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, and it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything, but it still tastes good. And maybe that's not the best part, but that's a really good part because we know there's some supplements out there that do not taste good at all. And listen, it costs you less than $3 a day. So what's not to like about AG1? And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So the Orioles take 2 out of 3 from the Rays over the weekend to get to 30-38 on the year, winning the Friday and Sunday games. And a big part of the Orioles winning those Friday and Sunday games was Jorge Lopez, who got a 4-out save in each of those 2 games. And the second thing, my second big takeaway from this weekend series win over Tampa Bay is that Jorge Lopez, frankly, should be an all-star when we get to the All-Star game at Dodger Stadium in mid-July, just about a month from now. He has been absolutely ridiculous this year. So after Friday, when he comes into the game in the 8th inning with 2 outs and gets the final 4 outs, goes an inning and a third scoreless, 1 hit, 4 Ks, no walks, gets his 10th save. Then Sunday comes right back out there. Runner on first, 2 down in a 1-run game in the 8th inning, gets all 4 outs. Inning and a third, 1 hit, no runs. Now, didn't have any Ks in that one, but no walks as well, and gets his 11th save. So throws 2 2/3 scoreless innings over the weekend each time in a one-run game. Came in the eighth, 1-0 with runners on Friday. Came in the eighth, 2-1 with a runner on Sunday. Got the 4 outs each time with his son Mikhail in the crowd as well on Father's Day Sunday. That was a really cool moment. Had to have been for Jorge with everything that he and his son have been through. But you look at what Lopez has done this year. His stats now after this weekend, 29 appearances. Jorge Lopez has a 0.79 ERA, 0.79. That is 3 earned runs allowed in 34 1/3 innings. Again, he's got the 11 saves, only 16 hits allowed. He struck out 34, walked just 13. No home runs allowed, has just a 0.84 whip on the season. And those are ridiculous stats. But, how do they play up to other relievers, other great relievers? Well, I put this tweet out on Saturday after Lopez has gotten the 4-out save on Friday night, comparing Jorge Lopez's stats to Zach Britton's stats when he had maybe the best season of any reliever ever in 2016, when he was perfect, 47 out of 47 on saves, had a sub-1 ERA, and of course didn't pitch in the wild card game, as we know, but was just absolutely dominant and got Cy Young votes that year. Well, Jorge Lopez, now updating those stats I tweeted out on Saturday because he has the 4 outs that he got with the save on Sunday. He has better stats. Now, not by a crazy amount. And you could argue that his stats are worse. I would maybe call it even, maybe a little better by Lopez, better ERA. But we mentioned Lopez's 0.79 ERA through 29 appearances. For Zach Britton in 2016, through 29 appearances, a 0.91 ERA, that is higher than Lopez's. 29 2/3 innings, that's 5 innings less than Lopez. Now, he had 21 saves. Lopez has 11. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the Orioles were a playoff team in 2016. The 2022 Orioles, despite playing better, are not a playoff team. Britton had allowed 15 hits, just about the same as Lopez. 3 earned runs, same as Lopez. 34 Ks, same as Lopez. 7 walks, a little lower. And he had allowed 1 home run, which Jorge has not allowed 1. I mean, basically across the board, through 29 appearances, Jorge Lopez basically neck and neck with what Zach Britton did in 2016. That's ridiculous because that's a top 5 season ever by a relief pitcher, what Britton did in 2016. And that's what Jorge Lopez is on pace for. And I mean, he's kind of doing it with the same kind of stuff that Britton had. Now, Lopez throws more pitches. Britton was, 85% sinkers with that slider thrown in there from time to time. Lopez throws that sinker, but he throws the slider, and he'll throw the curveball in there as well and try to toss in a changeup. But they were both throwing high 90s sinkers. We saw Lopez hit 99 multiple times this weekend, and with good breaking balls and get guys off balance, and they're getting guys to beat the ball into the ground. Jorge Lopez has right around a 70% ground ball rate this year. Zach Britton was just shy of 80% that year, so both kind of doing the same thing with the ground balls. I know Britton was a lefty and Lopez is a righty, but it's eerily similar to what they're doing. And remember, both were failed starters who didn't just convert to relievers in the minors. Zach Britton got a good chunk of time as a starter in the majors before he moved to the bullpen, as did Jorge Lopez. I'm not saying the O's have their next Zach Britton because he was incredible, as we know. But man, this has been fun to watch Jorge Lopez do this. And he needs to be an all-star. I get if things go the wrong way over the next month, maybe he won't be. But every year, more and more true relievers are taken for the all-star game. There were 7 relievers on the American League All-Star team in 2021. Lopez is easily a top 7 reliever in the American League right now. I mean, you can make a strong argument he's the second best relief pitcher in the American League right now. Clay Holmes has been on another world, another dimension as the Yankees closer, especially since Chapman's been out. Nobody's touching Clay Holmes right now. But Jorge Lopez, you can make a strong argument, is the second best relief pitcher in the American League. And the AL had 7 relievers on the All-Star team last year. Now, they picked 5 to start the game, and then 2 relievers replaced 2 starting pitchers who had started the game on Sunday before the All-Star game and decided to sit out, and then they added 2 more relievers. But even with 5 on the initial team, Lopez is definitely a top 5 reliever in the American League. So if you're picking the team right now, I think he's an easy all-star. And you got to give a spot to Austin Hayes or Trey Mancini. You would think so. The O's probably have 2 all-stars right now. But I mean, Lopez has just been ridiculous. And the other thing he's doing, he walked some guys early this year. He's got the 13 walks in 34 and a third. It's not really a bad number, but he was walking some guys early. His stats lately are just mind-boggling. Jorge Lopez has not allowed an earned run in June. In his 8 June appearances now, he's worked 11 innings, 1 run. It was unearned. So a 0 ERA, 12 strikeouts, no walks in June. 12 straight appearances for Jorge Lopez without an earned run, and 10 straight appearances now for Lopez without a walk. So not only is he being dominant, he's throwing strikes. He's not putting any free guys on base. And he's not just a 3-out, 9th inning save guy. Brandon Hyde is time and time again going to him for at least 4 outs, sometimes 5 outs, and a couple times Jorge Lopez has gotten 6 outs this year because he comes, as recently as last year from that starting pitcher background. And he's still got the 4-pitch mix. This is just so fun to watch. He needs to be an all-star. And if he keeps pitching like this, he's going to be a shoo-in all-star. But I think the world is starting to know of Jorge Lopez, the reliever. And I've talked about it, Orioles Twitter, Orioles fans, I think we were all over it, especially last year. Like, it's time. He's got the stuff. He just can't get through the lineup a third time. Move him to the bullpen. And a lot of the reason they didn't, because the Orioles just needed starting pitching so desperately that they kept him in the rotation over the last couple of years. But when they moved him to the bullpen last year, he was good. Then he had the injury, and we didn't get to see him. He makes the team out of the pen this year, kind of as the closer to start the season. And we thought he was going to be pretty good. I don't think any of us thought he would be prime Zach Britton. And that's what he's been so far. And it is just, it's awesome. It is awesome what Jorge Lopez is doing right now. But listen, Lopez wasn't the only guy out of the bullpen who had a great weekend. The O's got a lot of really good appearances from their relievers this weekend. And it's the reason why they were able to win 2 one-run games. And it's the reason why even they were able to stay in Saturday's game, even though they lost. And really, that bullpen has been a huge reason why the O's have won more games this year. They've been in more games, and they've played more one-run games. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why the O's just seem built better for one-run games. We'll talk about why that is as a whole and look into how it pertains to the 3 one-run games from this weekend coming up next. But first, let's talk about betonline.net, which is really the one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. The number one source for all the betting needs, sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including the Stanley Cup Finals. The Colorado Avalanche look like maybe the best NHL team ever, just pouring it on with a 7-0 win over the Lightning on Saturday night. They got a 2-0 lead. So do you want to just go after and hammer the Avs, or you could probably get a pretty good price on Tampa Bay right now? They've won the last 2 Stanley Cups. Maybe they've got to come back in them. And of course, you got all your Major League Baseball action. And BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts like this one, and news this season. And it's not just the sports I've mentioned. It's also MMA, it's boxing, it's golf, it's everything you need. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action at BetOnline, where the game starts. So the Orioles 2 out of 3 from the Rays this weekend. And after being swept in Tampa Bay to open the 2022 season, the O's have now won back-to-back series against the Rays. They're now 4-5 against Tampa this year after, again, going 1-18 against the Rays last season. That was rough to watch. This year it's been much better. And the Orioles now, listen, they are 14-19 against the AL East this year. They are close to a, almost 430, 440 winning percentage against the American League East this year. They were right around a 200 winning percentage against the AL East in 2021. So they're playing this division, which has 4 teams vying for a playoff spot. They're playing these guys real close. And that's what's made the O's better as well. But speaking of playing them close, my third and final big takeaway from the weekend is that the Orioles just seem this year more built to play these one-run games. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win all these one-run games, but the Orioles are now 10-12 in one-run games this season. They played 3 one-run games over the weekend. Of course, won 2 out of the 3. And those, 22 one-run games on the season through 68 games. It's a lot of close games. They only played 37 one-run games last year. They played 33 of them in 2019. So they're just playing more of those close games this year as well. And of course, they're winning more of them. They were 13-24 in one-run games last year. They were 11-22 in one-run games in 2019, and they were 7-12 in 2020. They're already 10-12 this year. I mean, their next one-run win will match the amount they had in 2019. They need 3 more to match last year. They're just better in these spots. And the question kind of becomes, why is that the case? Well, obviously, first thing you bring up is the bullpen. This is the best bullpen that Brandon Hyde has been able to manage. That's pretty clear. It's looking closer to the bullpens the O's had under Buck Showalter. It's not there yet. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but it's looking a lot closer than the recent bullpens we've seen. You've got Lopez, who we just talked about. You've got Felix Bautista pitching so well right now. Walk rate is lower than it ever was in the minors. How crazy is that? Felix Bautista had all these walk issues in the minors. His walk rate in his first major league season, lower than it ever was in his 8 years in the minor leagues. You've got Dylan Tate, who, I get it, he did give up a run, loaded the bases in the 9th inning on Saturday, gave up what ended up being the game-winning run in the 9th inning in the Rays 7-6 win. But otherwise, he's been fantastic this year. Cionel Perez, his underlying stats are much worse than his actual stats, but he's still getting people out. And then the O's have called up Nick Vespi, and he's been dynamite. I mean, had, 2 more scoreless appearances this weekend as well. Got one Saturday and got one on Sunday. And you still have, guys like Brian Baker, who they've been interesting and up and down, but he had a huge strikeout in Sunday's game. And, the other guys that have kind of mixed and matched and been in and out of the bullpen as well throughout the year. But these guys were once again just really great. Just great again this weekend. Over the 3 games for the Orioles, their bullpen pitched 14 innings. That's a pretty sizable amount. Now, it's because they had Lyle scratch Sunday. They had to go with the spot starter. Austin Voth only goes 2 2/3 Sunday. But 14 innings, they allowed just 2 runs on 12 hits in those 14 innings with 19 strikeouts and just 3 walks from the bullpen all weekend. Incredibly impressive, including the bullpen didn't walk anybody in the Friday 1-0 win. And so you look at what this pen is doing, and obviously that's the number one reason why they're winning more close games. You get a lead in the 6th or 7th inning, the O's can go to the Vespis, Perez, Tate, Bautista, Lopez, Baker, whoever it may be, and they can hold that lead, even if it's just the 1 run. We saw it Friday. It was a 0-0 game until the 7th. Adley gets the RBI single. It's 1-0. O's can hold the lead. They went up 2-0 early in this game, went up 1-0 with the Santander home run on Sunday, added to it with the Mullins RBI double. Rays got a run in the 4th, and then you're up 2-1 after 4 innings, and you're already into the bullpen, and the bullpen holds it for 5 innings scoreless, and they win a 2-1 game despite the fact that the offense really didn't have a great weekend, especially Friday and Sunday. They scored a combined 3 runs in those 2 games and still won both of them. I mean, that's huge for a team like this. But you also got to remember, it feels like the offense is just a little more built to get these games back to 1-run games. And what I'm talking about really is how Saturday's game went. Even though they lost the game, I get it. A loss is a loss. You'd rather win that kind of game. And the O's had a chance. It was 6-6 for a while in that game. They certainly could have won it. But at the end of the day, you're playing a game like that. You come out at least kind of happy with the result. I mean, the Orioles, they trailed early in that game. And, you give up a 4-run third. Kyle Bradish isn't looking too good. You're down 6-2 heading to the bottom of the 5th. And all of a sudden you rally for 3 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th. You're down 6-2. And then 2 innings later, boom, it's a 6-6 game heading to the 7th. You turn it over to your bullpen. And I get, they couldn't score again. Tate gives up the run. They lose 7-6. But this offense, it seemed this year, has had so much firepower. They've had all these comebacks this year, and some of the comebacks, like Saturday, don't lead to a win. But you even have guys on Saturday. Robinson Chirinos had a 3-for-4 day with 2 doubles and 4 RBIs in the loss on Saturday. You don't expect that at all from Robinson Chirinos, who came into that game hitting 148, and that's what he does. And you get 2 hits from Mountcastle and Santander, and your big guys get the job done as well. But just to have that has been so impressive. And I think it's really twofold why the Orioles have A, played so many 1-run games, even when they lose some like Saturday, and B, why they've won so many, again at 10-12 on the year, The bullpen is the big reason why they've won so many, but the offense, when they go down 6-2 in the fifth inning, they're not done. And in past years, they've been kind of done when they went down 6-2 in the fifth. Not this year. 2 innings later against a really good Rays bullpen, boom, 6-6 game. We're even again. And that's what's been so impressive about the Orioles. They're going to continue to play one-run games. I think they're built to win some more, as they're only 8 games under 500 right now. This is a much better baseball team than we saw last year, and they showed it this weekend with a series win over the Rays. And with that series win, the Orioles rewarded with a day off on Monday, and they're at home as well, not even a travel day, so they get to enjoy the city, do whatever they want on Monday. And then a 2-game series starts on Tuesday. The Washington Nationals for a little Beltway battle coming up to Camden Yards. And I'll be back with you on the podcast tomorrow. We'll preview that quick little 2-game series between the O's and the Nats. And we'll get you what move the Orioles make. Remember, they have to cut down the number of pitchers. They have to send a pitcher down and add a hitter to the roster before Tuesday's game. We will talk about that, what move they made and why they made it, coming up on tomorrow's episode. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.